possible complications of my decision to no longer distinguish between short form and long form content. A couple of years ago, I decided to distinguish my content in short form and long form, with short form everything being under 1 minute and long form everything above. I also then eventually decided to merge it into one format that would only be distinguished in terms of length, such that the viewer, if he happened to view the shorts, for example, on YouTube, then also could transition to the long form content, and it is just the same format, just longer. And it does not have a different style, it does not have a different editing to it. So this could be true in terms of music, this could also be true in terms of me standing in front of the camera, a format I call front, because it is the front camera I use. Now, not really if, but I eventually decided to abandon this distinction. The problem was that I had to increase my production output in terms of the video productions, not in terms of the video production, but if I just say, okay, once I turned into an adult as of age 18, and then I averaged the amount of videos I produced in a given day, I had 3. Now, this could not, no, actually the 3 number was for when I actually began to record these videos, but I made kind of content before. I had a website where I blogged a little bit. I also wanted to try Instagram, but I had not really a good strategy for it, so I still don't have an Instagram account with any amount of significant followers, even though I would maybe have pictures, for example, because I have been, I'm going into a side thread, a side quest. So back to the main quest. The main quest was the distinction between short and long form content. I eventually decided that this was something that it would be useful. I could post, for example, to TikTok the short form content, even though then TikTok eventually would also expand. So as TikTok kind of expanded to YouTube, to also the long form content, and then YouTube took over the TikTok format, and then also the shorts appeared on Instagram, but then also on Facebook. But as of me making this decision, the situation was much more that now Facebook tried in India these short form things. Then actually YouTube, I think, tried in India first the short form content, but not in the country I live. And so there was this, I tried to develop a frame for making videos. I tried to also find out whether I should record in vertical or in the other format. In the beginning I recorded everything in the landscape format. But what I am to a certain extent now also thinking is that I am using myself as an audience proxy. And I think I want to be able to listen to a video on my phone because I don't want to have the negative association. I want to have the clean association of my computer being a work tool. So the only tool I would potentially use is my phone. So I would watch on my phone. But I would still maybe not want to turn the phone all the time. So now, of course, the problem is if I am the only channel that has this vertical format also for long videos, then this might not make sense. And I was thinking maybe they merge it together in the future, and maybe on YouTube you could actually then be able to play back a vertical video also in longer form, which then kind of eventually happened, and now it has a kind of a reasonable player. There are also a couple of other things, like I just happen to be a human, and so if I record on my torso up from here, and I also don't want to have my hands be not beneath, but on the sides of my face in order to still record my gesture, then, well, it is just much more convenient to talk in a format like this. Also, I don't have to be as far away from the camera because, well, now this is actually kind of different, but, well, it also depends on the camera, on how wide the lens is, and so on and so forth. So, getting back to the short and long form distinction, I eventually decided to abandon the distinction in my tracking. So I record the videos and then I would sort them through. So basically I would say, okay, in Windows Explorer, sort them by length, and then I would take all of the ones that were beneath or below 1 minute, and then I would import them as an entry into Notion in my case, because I track my videos there. And then I would take the other ones into a different list. And then once I would have a channel on, let's say, YouTube Studio on the internet or on the web, then I would first upload the shorts and then the longs. I would also have 2 different schedules. Now, in the beginning, I didn't really know whether I should post the shorts maybe daily, but could I produce this many shorts? And should I produce the longs then weekly, or at least, or should basically be there a link between my actual production rate and also the output rate? But maybe if I don't optimize for basically a consistent schedule, then I can only have the schedule, the output schedule, basically being below what I average in terms of the production rate, because otherwise there will always be a point where then eventually there will be no video. So I opted for basically the consistency, which also meant that I changed these schedules a couple of times. In the beginning I thought maybe a video a month, but in the style I am making videos, a video a month is basically nothing, it seems, in terms of potential traffic. Mostly because the videos probably to most people maybe aren't that interesting. A lot of maybes and a lot of potentials. A lot of potentialities. Now back to the distinction between short and long form. Now in the last couple of weeks I put increasing pressure on my ability to produce an output. And this now could be a short video and a long form video. But I still had the problem that I would have to schedule all of these things in advance. So I would have to say, okay, I only record short videos now, and so I have to speak maybe quicker, or maybe I just have all of these video ideas I have, but now I try to make short versions of these. So if I have a given idea, then I would either have to sort them before for long and short, but sometimes the short would be not fitting into 60 seconds, so it would then turn into a long form video. But then I would have these in between videos, which in the past I deleted, but then I try to not delete videos I record, because, well, if I begin, then where do I end? If I just then allow myself to delete all the videos, then I record a video and then I re-record it 9 times, and the 10th time is then probably worse than the ones I already deleted, and so on and so forth. So I had an increasing pressure on trying to increase my production output, because if I want to turn this into something that is giving me an income back, then at the views I have, at the average views I have at this point in time, then I would have to increase the output, because this would be the only way by which I, at the given average view rate at a certain CPM, which I also can kind of guess or get, then I could have a certain amount of income that is then based on the viewership. And so I would have to increase the production rate if the videos kind of stayed the same, and there is no accumulating benefit of me basically being consistent over time, and therefore an audience kind of accumulating more than linear based on the video viewership. And so as I was trying to find ways through which I could simplify the process, because if I could simplify the process and basically lower the threshold of recording a video, which in terms of setting up often means that, or in the past often meant that I recorded something and then I realized that I just recorded 20 videos which now have no audio, because the setup, because I had different formats, and because then there is a higher risk or likelihood of me having the microphone connected differently. And so the more I standardize something like this, the higher basically the resulting output that I can actually use. And in order to try to increase the output, now one strategy would be to just not record 15-minute videos, but instead 15-second videos. Then of course now if I just count the number of videos, then this is potentially not that great. I could then switch to watch time, but then watch time is not publicly available on YouTube, so I would have to be logged into all of the different channels in order to then gather the data. Maybe there is a script, or I could use the YouTube API or something like this, but I haven't found out something like this, because there is also a time investment cost to getting something like this up, and then in 3 months you figure that this doesn't work any longer because there's this one link in the chain which is now broken, and then you have to invest again 15 hours into finding a new workflow that then tracks the stats, for example. So I also got rid of the watch time. I still have them tracked for a certain number of channels, but I now just access the public stats, which are followers, which are views and videos. The videos is my input, the views is to a certain extent my output, and the followers also to a certain extent, one could say a metric that is kind of approximating viewership interest. Or I don't specifically know what I should make as of followers as of now, and how the different platforms are using them. So I'm taking mostly, okay, now the views are also different, because, well, it could be different quality views, some not specifically in terms of the quality of the viewership, but some topics might have higher CPMs, for example. So one might also say that this amount of views in this specific niche has a higher CPM compared to this, and therefore also the revenue one is then getting a share of. In terms of the long videos, it seems to be 55%, in terms of the short videos, 45% on YouTube, for example. And so the variable I can control is my video output. If I assume the average viewership per video stays the same, the average viewership has been calculated for all of the videos. If I say, okay, up from 18, I actually have an output of 0, I think, because I only, at this point in time, as of recording, have 2K content videos, not music videos, but I think I also recorded a couple of music videos which I have included in this number. And I already have plans to distinguish the tracking of these numbers to have basically music video, kind of a separate thing, and music production. But as of now, the 2K videos are basically all the videos I ever produced and that are still live on YouTube. Because I also made a couple of videos that I no longer wanted to have online. And because I'm using myself again as an audience proxy, then I can just say, well, if I don't want it online, then probably the audience, which is me, also wants them online. So I decided to get rid of the short and long form distinction. Now for YouTube, I also decided to only post to YouTube as of now. This simplifies my uploading process and my distribution process. The longer the distribution, and if I also say I have the ideation and the creation and the distribution, the longer the distribution, the less time I have for the other two parts. And so, well, there is only a certain amount of time I have. So, well, it is just putting basically these two markers, which is ideation and creation, and putting them and putting the other marker. That's kind of using different variables, which one then could have different proportions of these three sectors of production, one could say. Now, one potential negative outcome of this decision to now only have short and no longer have short and long form distinction. So first of all, one has to acknowledge the fact that YouTube distinguishes them now automatically. So I have the same format, which is this vertical format, and YouTube says, okay, this is short, this is long, this is short, this is long. So I don't have to do it, at least for YouTube. Now, one could also imagine a scenario where it would not be sorted automatically by the platform, but because my format is the only distinction is the length at this point in time, YouTube sorts them out automatically. Now, this could also mean that if in the future I would only need the long videos for a different platform, let's just say I would want to upload all of my long videos to one platform, and this could be in terms of music production, for example, music distribution. Then I would not want to have a 15-second recording of me doing one guitar riff in there. So what I could potentially do is I would go into YouTube and have the threshold of 1 minute basically as the threshold, and everything above have as a music piece. But then the question is, do streaming services then accept a 1 minute music piece, where is the threshold? And then some might not. So previously I had a distinction of, at least in terms of music, that it would be at least 2 minutes long. This was my distinction, to also have kind of an empty zone that distinguishes the short and the long form content. So 0 to 60 seconds short, then 1 minute to 2 minutes there would be nothing, and then the long videos would begin up from 2 minutes. Of course, we could also say maybe there are additional formats. Maybe there is a 40-minute format, maybe there is a 2-hour format, which might then be more like a show, or the 40-minute might be a show. Maybe there are also 20-minute videos. But I again simplified, and now YouTube has these two shelves, which are short and long. At this point in time, when I create the channel, I just try to change as minimally, or try to change as little things as possible. And one of these things is to not create 10 playlists, which I then would have to optimize and possibly also standardize across multiple channels in order to, for me, have kind of the same experience in the backend again and again, and know what I have to do. But then if I make one change, let's say, okay, at the third playlist now, so should it actually be different? And I have to then apply this change to a dozen, well, not a dozen, let's say just a couple of channels, then this takes a lot of time. And so every decision I make is basically introducing this this tripling effects, I think is the proper word for this, where I would only make this one decision, but because this decision, like a tree, is connected to so many branches, I would have to implement this now decision, and this would take hours often. And so I was trying to get rid of these decision variables. Also, one would be the length, in order to increase the production rate, which potentially would be the only actual real way in which, not actual real way, which in terms of the input is the variable I can control the most. If I make this same kind of video still, and I won't be able to make twice the quality of the videos the way I make them, which is me mostly recording them in one shot, not specifically one shot, but rather one take, and so increasing the production rate and also having the metric in this case, the average production rate would also mean that basically every video I ever make is recorded in this. So in order to increase my production rate, let's just say since I turned into an adult, I would actually now have to have significantly more, and I cannot pat myself on the shoulder and say, oh, I made so many videos this day, because the average production rate since turning into an adult, and since turning into an adult, I kind of pursued this in some way or another. And then in order to get the average production rate up, I would have to basically have a peak, which then also takes the averages of the past up.